Well, we continue our Cuse Connection series. Brian Higgins with you here in Syracuse, and great to be joined by one of the all-time great Orange athletes, Justyn Knight. And Justyn, first off, as we kind of touch base around the world with everybody, where are you in the world right
Right now, I'm still in Virginia, Charlottesville to be specific, and I mean it's been a tough decision on whether or not to go home or not, but I ended up staying in the States.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Obviously, you're Canadian. We've known that forever. And we did one of these with the Syracuse goalie Drake Porter now about a month ago, and he ended up staying here in the Syracuse area. We know you trained down in Charlottesville primarily. How tough was that decision? Where hey, your family's at home in Canada, but maybe Charlottesville's the best place for you right now, and going back and forth maybe isn't an option at the moment.
Yeah, I mean it was super tough to make that decision. There was a lot of variables that kind of went into me making that choice, and at the end of the day, I think like the choice that I made to stay over here was probably the best one for me, and for everyone in my family, and my girlfriend's family. One of the things too is just like Virginia as a whole hasn't got as hit as badly as Ontario, so
Mhm.
that was a good reason to stay. And then obviously we don't want to put our loved ones at risk. Uh, Traveling to go home would just kind of raise the chances of contracting the virus. So I just figured that we'd stay put here and keep our eye on everything.
And I know you had a pretty decent training group there, did you? How many guys are still down there with you that you can train with, or does that have to kind of be put on hold for now?
I mean, everything's on hold for now for me personally. I know a lot of my teammates still train together and they try to keep a social distance, but I mean, a lot of them actually live together. But for me, I mean, I live by myself here with my girlfriend, and I'm just trying to do my part for society and maintaining my social distance from people that I don't live with. And I mean, that being said, I train by myself, but I have my whole team is still in Charlottesville.
And we'll get to the idea of the training that you are doing and really would have been doing here and what was supposed to be an Olympic year here in a bit. But before that, Justyn, you're only out of school a couple of years, but your love of the university has been well documented since the second you set foot on campus. Ever since you've graduated, you turn on the TV at a basketball game and you're there and stuff like that. You've recently made a very generous donation to help support those athletes who get the extra year because those scholarships need to be
Yeah.
paid for. How important was that for you to step up, not just for Syracuse, but specifically in this cause for people that are your friends that are coming back here next year?
Yeah, I mean, it was very important for me, and just talking briefly about my career at Syracuse for 4 years. I mean, from the moment I stepped on campus, you guys welcomed me with open hands. Whether I was the Justyn Knight that won 3 NCAA championships, or if I was just a person that was on the team, you guys always had open arms towards me and treated me, and treated a lot of my teammates the same way you treat any Syracuse athlete. And I think like with this unfortunate situation, it just stinks because I feel like a lot of people won't be graduating or finishing off their careers the way that they want to. And I know how much the school means to me. And personally, whether or not there is a pandemic this year or not, donating back to Syracuse is something that I would have wanted to do. But it's just about being there for the next generation and making sure that they can have just as much of a good experience at the school as we did, if not have a better one. So I'm just trying to do my part and make sure that the Cuse family stays strong.
Well, you know about closing it out right, don't you? I mean, your senior year in cross country, you win the national title, you win an outdoor national title. That's got to be something that goes into your thought too, isn't it? That these people like you, they were building towards something that they want to finish
Yeah,
off.
yeah. I mean, the lacrosse team. I mean, we technically won the national championship on Twitter. I don't know if you guys saw that. I
We'll,
voted.
we'll take it. We
Yeah,
won them both,
I
Justyn.
mean,
We won them both.
we won them both, and I feel like we were gonna win this year, definitely for sure, if regular if play was able to resume. But
Mhm.
exactly, I mean, I know what it's like to be striving for something and be working for from the first year all the way to your fourth year. And I couldn't even imagine if I was robbed of that opportunity and the way that these kids were. So that kind of really hit me close to my heart. But I mean, I can't change the rules. I can't you know stop Corona from affecting North America and stuff, but I can play a role in trying to make sure that we can do something better in the future and help give those kids a chance.
Well, you mentioned just the lacrosse teams. 10 of the 11 women seniors are coming back next year. Only Mary Rahal has opted to go into a great career
Awesome.
she had set up for. And I think 5 men's lacrosse All-Americans are coming back next year that would have graduated. And then on top of that, we've seen rowers and tennis players and everything that have been
Yeah,
affected this spring. So there's a lot going on, Justin. It's not necessarily the athletes you see on television or something. This has affected a lot of people.
exactly. It's affected a lot of people, and I think my hat goes off to Mr. Wildhack, because I think like the way he's kind of handled everything has been phenomenal. I pay attention to all the press releases and stuff like that that's done, and for an AD to make a call and say, hey, we're not gonna cut any sports, or we're not gonna we're gonna find a way to make sure that these athletes can come back on campus. I think that speaks a lot, because he cares about each and every sport, no matter if it's basketball, football, or lacrosse being the main ones. But he cares about all the sports that are represented by Syracuse athletes, and I think that speaks the world of our AD.
And it's not been the case at every other school so far, and tough financial
Yeah.
decisions to be made. And kudos to Justin at such a young age, stepping up and being part of the solution here for the Orange. And Justin, I want to ask you this. This was to be an Olympic year, and you had not technically qualified for the games yet, as that stuff hadn't happened yet.
Yeah.
But I think we were all of mind that you were going to be in Tokyo this summer in 2020. Now that's pushed back a full calendar year. How tough was that, I guess, the initial moment of realizing that would not happen this year, and then I guess everything that's happened since then of processing what you need to do here going forward?
Yeah, I mean, the initial moment was extremely tough, and part of the reasons that made it so tough, and I don't like talking about it too much because I feel like I shouldn't, but part of the reason why I was hurt was because Team Canada made an announcement before the Olympics were actually canceled this year,
Right.
and they made an announcement saying that we were not going to be participating whether it was canceled or not, and I found out at like 10:30 at night from a friend. So we didn't get any email or anything. So I was just like, is this true? And then I went on Twitter and found out. And it kind of hurt because I just would have liked the heads up so I can kind of process it before it's, put out for everybody to read. But at the end of the day, I mean, Olympics, they come and go every 4 years. It's not like this is the last Olympics that's ever going to happen. And I'm just glad that, instead of, pushing it back another 3 years or 4 years, that they're just going to try their best to have it in 2021. And I'm thankful that, it's the same way for all the athletes. And, Team Canada is not the only team that's missing out. But first and foremost, the world healing and being able to move forward from this pandemic is the most important thing.
And hey, you're right. It was Canada was the first country that said, "Yeah, this is
The
not
first.
not a good idea." And then I don't know how
Yeah.
long it took. It took probably it took
It
longer
took
than
a
you
couple
think. It took about
days.
it felt like a week until it officially got
Yeah.
zinged. And you're
Yeah,
right.
and
The good news is it's just back a year right now, so you can sort of reset
for
your
sure.
clock, I guess.
Yeah, and I think like the whole thing about it was just that being an athlete, like this is territory that, I mean, I don't know if anybody else has gone through it. I know that they've had to cancel the Olympics before for different reasons, but
Mhm.
there was so much uncertainty that was going on that I just wasn't sure what was going on. So that was like my initial reaction. But then once, the full situation was brought to reality and they kind of made the move of canceling the Olympics for everyone, I was like, okay, well, this is a lot better. The whole world's kind of moving at the same pace and we all understand what we got to do to recover from this. And I was pretty happy with the decision.
Well, as you said, it's not the first time Olympics have been canceled. There have been boycotts and stuff in the past, but it is the first time the entire Olympics are not happening in
Oh,
the intended year since World War II. It's been a minute
yeah,
since they've gone away like that. I'm curious,
yeah,
Justin, about your idea as with an Olympic athlete. It's not like you're not running every 4 years. You got big races. You got stuff every year on the
yeah,
calendar. But when the big thing, when the thing people remember is every
exactly.
4 years instead of every year as there would be for a Super Bowl or a World Series or whatever. Is that tougher on you guys when it is the main thing and it is 4 years? I mean, this year it's
It
just a
is.
year, but it is a thing you're building for not 1 year, but you're building to this moment for 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's very tough. And I mean, I missed the 2016 Olympics, and that was the only one that I was actually striving for once upon a time. And
Hmm.
this would have been the next one following. But, there's a ton of athletes that, whether you're in track and field or you're in other Olympic sports that aren't as famous as the NBAs, the NFLs, and stuff like that. Um, we have championships. Well, track is we have championships like every 2 years,
Hmm.
but there's lots of big meets. There's world records that go down and stuff like
Hmm.
that. But when you get the world's attention and like everybody is watching, is the Olympics. So it's very hard because you might be a very accomplished athlete in yourself, but if you don't perform on that day in 4 years, then you might not get the credit from the world that you kind of deserve. And I think it's not something that I think too much about. I like to think of things like I like to focus on each individual race at a time because,
Hmm.
there's nothing that I can do right now that can guarantee that I'm going to be where I need to be next year in 2021 and or 2024. So I
Hmm.
like to focus on what I can do right now and, get better every day. And then when I get to getting called upon to compete at the world stage, I hope that I'll be ready to go.
Curious about your training, Justin, because I think every year you're building to something, especially in running. The idea is not to be at the absolute fastest you can go every time you
Yeah.
set foot on the track. Your body just it doesn't work like that. So you, I'm certain this year, you and Coach Fox, who's still your coach, you must have set out a plan
Yep.
where you're building toward. Okay, you got to qualify, and then you're building toward being ready, whatever the date was, end of July, beginning of August, to run
Yeah.
5,000 meters 2 times in Tokyo. How early does the really specific training to a day, I guess, start for you in a year? And what do you do now where that day isn't there
Yeah.
anymore? And I guess you had to hit reset.
Yeah, I mean, if I could take you back a couple of weeks when it all first happened, and I was in really good shape. It was just right after I got the Canadian record for the 1500
Hmm.
indoors, and I was ready to compete. I was supposed to compete in April, and uh, when the news kind of broke out, then we thought like the season was just going to be pushed back to August maybe or something like that. So we kind of pushed dialed down training a little bit, took a little more lighter days, I guess we can call it, than usual. And then the news just kept getting worse and worse, and then stuff got canceled. And then it was getting to a point where there was so much uncertainty that Coach Fox was just like, you know what, Justin, do you want to take a break? Like, do you want to take a week off or something of no running whatsoever? And I said, I mean, I'm fit right now. I don't feel like I need a week off, but what do you think? And he said, like, there's so much uncertainty that right now would be the perfect time to just take some time off and then we can restart. So I ended up doing that. And then I've been dialing back ever since, just continuously just raising my training levels and stuff like that. Nothing too serious, but I mean, I heard there's rumors that we're going to be competing in October, just in terms of like having regular track meets. There might be
Okay.
some stuff that's set up. So right now we're just working on building up slowly and maintaining our shape, and then maybe closer to July or so, we might start training with more of a purpose, I guess you can say.
It's really interesting watching the sports try to come back. We've seen some stuff already. They're running NASCAR races.
Yep.
German soccer has started again. We did one of these with the former Orange lacrosse player Sergio Salcido recently, and the PLL's got something for this afternoon. But I mean, there's not a big time track meet on planet Earth that doesn't have people from a whole bunch of countries at it. So I
Yeah.
guess how tough is that, Justin? Where if you're going to have, I mean, there's events that are more localized, but the serious
Yeah.
ones are people from all over the world. That's got to make it tougher to organize.
It's very tough, especially in times like this. And one of the things that a lot of Olympic athletes were expressing was that there's a lot of people that were chasing that Olympic standard that
Hmm.
don't have it yet. And I don't know if you saw, but they ended up saying that you can't achieve the Olympic standard even if you do run it until I think it's like December 31st or something like that.
Okay.
And it kind of puts like a lot of athletes in a position where, I mean, that rule might change, but like if there's something going on in October in Norway, for example, like do you want to risk getting on a plane and going to a foreign country to try to live out your dream of getting the Olympic standard, or do you want to try to accomplish that in the US or Canada or what have you? And fortunately enough for me, I have the Olympic standard, so I'm okay in that regard. So I can probably guarantee you that I'll probably just stay in the States right now in terms of competition. But I can only imagine for some of my competitors and my friends that are trying to achieve the same goal as me, like it kind of puts them in a tough spot because there's races that are set up to get those standards in other countries. But I'm sure they might work out something here.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. You had already achieved the standard for this Olympic cycle, and which means you don't actually have to run that fast at qualifying. Does
Yeah,
does that carry over to next year, or you're going to have to check a box
it
again in a
it
year?
does it does carry over to next year. So I'm really happy about that. I think they made a pretty fair decision, and it's not our fault that the event got canceled, but it does carry over to next year.
Okay, that's good. So the people that were set up
Yeah.
to 2020, it would just be terrible if you're ready to go, and just because it didn't get
Yeah.
moved that you got it to miss out. So that's something that. And Justin, I want to ask you about this. Syracuse and Canada in the Olympics this has been a big thing here recently. We might get to one of these later in the summer. I know Syracuse's all-time leading scorer in women's basketball, Kayla Alexander, helped the
Hmm.
Canadian women's basketball team qualify. Softball was making his big return to the Olympics after 2 games off, and Jenna
Yeah.
Kyra is Syracuse's best ever softball player and it is the ace. How cool will that be when hopefully you all are there next year to have some fellow Orange, walk into the opening ceremonies and doing stuff like that?
It'll be amazing. Kind of like the feeling that I get whenever I saw a Canadian at Syracuse. I'd get super excited and we'll share stories of like memories we had in Canada. But now it's to another level where, not only are you Canadian, but you're also a member of the Syracuse Orange family. So I'm really excited to hopefully get the opportunity to meet them and watch them compete in their respected sports. So, and I'll go out there cheering as loud as I can for them.
And hey, Natalie Mastracci was a former rower. She was toting around a silver medal from the London games back when she was in
Yep.
school. So that was pretty cool to see when she was back
That's awesome.
on campus. All right, Justin, let's wrap up on this a little less serious, and I don't think this will cause any identity theft against you. But we were all watching the Michael Jordan and the Bulls documentary recently, the Last Dance. Emailing you this week to get this set up. You have a 23 in your email address. I'm assuming that's not a coincidence right now that you're a big Jordan guy.
Yes, the 23 is 100% because of Michael Jordan. And I don't know if you saw, I posted a picture on Twitter of me in my backyard eating a popsicle, but that outfit that I was wearing, the Michael Jordan jersey and the shorts, I used to wear that every single day when I was a kid. And, he was my idol. So it's really cool just to see them dive into his life.
I'd say you've been posting some basketball videos during it. You could go back in the day a little bit, couldn't you? You were a little quick little point
Oh
guard,
yeah.
huh?
I was trying to get Coach Boeheim's attention, but unfortunately, he looked at O'Shea and some other Canadian guards before he looked at me. So it's okay.
Your length at the top of the zone might not quite be there. Let me ask
No.
this though, Justin. Speaking of 23, you're only 23 years old, 24 here in a couple months, which means you would not have even been 2 yet when Jordan hit that shot in Utah to end that stage of his
Yeah.
career. So you can't possibly remember that. So
No.
how did you become a Jordan guy? I mean, his career, save for
Yeah.
the Wizards years, I mean, his career was over before you would have been really watching.
Yeah. I mean, as far as I can remember, and my dad very. Whoops. Sorry. I don't know if I.
There
Can
you
you hear
are.
me?
Yeah, we got you.
Sorry. My dad, he's been a very big part of my life. And, my dad's my own hero too. I look up to him with so much stuff. And ever since I can remember, he's been a Michael Jordan fan. He's been a Bulls fan. And he got me involved in playing basketball, and he would show me old videos of Michael Jordan and stuff like that. So I think just through him, I felt like I knew Michael Jordan. I felt like I experienced all those moments when I actually haven't. But my dad is he's always played like a huge role in kind of figuring out who else can inspire me and stuff like that.
Well, that documentary, I think, here over the last month plus, I guess that's been our version of live sports right now, even though the
Yeah.
stuff's 20 and 30 years now. Let me ask you this: since you were not around and remembering it at the time, what'd you learn from it that was new and interesting that maybe you didn't know because you didn't see those games the first time around?
I mean, I learned so many things about Michael Jordan. I think a lot of the stuff I kind of understood that he was that way, just like in terms of being a competitor. But
Hmm.
when it comes to like putting the team on his back and just his work ethic and why he did the things the way that he wanted to do it, I learned a lot about that. And then also, kind of, there's a lot of drama that was going on the Bulls team, and there's a lot of things that I learned about Michael Jordan. But I think just mainly like his work ethic and just actually visually seeing him uh, kind of command stuff from his team was really cool to watch.
Well, I'll say this. I think you and Mike, personality-wise, Justyn, you may go about things a slightly different way, even though you're both at the top of your given sports.
Yeah, I mean, I was a good teammate. I don't think I wouldn't get into my teammates' face, but I always had those pep talks, and you can even ask the seniors that are on the cross country team right now. I remember when they got there as freshmen, I would talk to each and every one of them and tell them, the sacrifice and the commitment and what it takes to be a contributing member to this team and what they're going to have to do. And I mean, I think I went about it a lot nicer, but I think a lot of the times I did kind of hold that standard to my teammates. Like, if you guys want to be a part of something great, this is kind of the sacrifices you got to do as well.
All right, Justyn, we know you're a true orange through and through. And hey, we got a little more than a year, I guess, to the Olympics. So hopefully we'll catch up before you're, in theory, on the way to Tokyo in 2021. Thanks a
Yes,
lot.
sir. Thanks again for having me, Brian.